industry, who will also share his experience with all of us. And we are grateful that you are here, and we hope that you will learn a lot from this. You can send us questions, you can contribute when the time is right, and we hope that you enjoy your time here. Thank you so much. I'll hand over to the moderator for this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. So I'm very excited about this program. As Joseph said, there are two people that we have invited to be our facilitators for this program. One is our own elder, Elder Benai. He is the first elder for Bethel Church. He's also the first elder for the Osu, the newly formed Osu district. Elder is retired. It's quite interesting to see that Elder is retired. Ordinarily, you would think that a retired man is an old man with a lot of gray hair and all that. Elder doesn't look retired, but he's retired. And we are happy to have him on the program. He's going to be one of our facilitators, and he's going to share his experience and his thoughts with us, especially those of us who are not yet there, and the lessons that we can learn from him. So Elder, you are welcome to the program. Also, online, we have a professional in the financial sector. We have our brother, Mr. Ransford Mate Colley. He is a senior officer at the Enterprise Trustees Limited. He's a sales manager. He has over 10 years of experience in the financial sector. He's quite interested in working with young people, and he's keen to share his professional experience with us in terms of planning for our retirement. As Joseph said, a lot of people plan for a lot of things, but when it comes to retirement, not many of us prepare for it. And so we have our brother Ransford Mate Colley to share also his professional experience with us that will help us in planning for the future. So he's online. He's joining us online. The IE is here physically in the auditorium, but Mr. Mate Colley will be joining us online. If Mr. Mate Colley, can you just give us a hi online? If you can put on your video so that we can see you. Hi, yes, those of you online.
Hello, everybody.
Nice. We are happy to have you online for you to join in the discussions and to share your experience with us.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. We are grateful. So that's what we're going to start the program. We'll have the facilitators speak to us first, and then after they have given us some perspective, then also we'll take questions. I believe that we'll have more interactions with the question time as we go on the program. So, Elder, we'll start with you. Is that the program? Or is that way around? Okay. So, Mr. Mate Colley, we'll start with you to do the presentation. Give us your presentation, and then after that, we'll come to Elder to also share his presentation with us. So, Mr. Mate Colley, I'll hand over to you to do give us some thoughts on retirement.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just permit me to share my screen, and so kindly let me know if my screen is visible and if you can hear me loud and clear.
Very visible.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. It's great to be part of this session. As was said in the bio, we are very excited about retirement planning because we see the need to help people to be able to plan and to retire comfortably. So any opportunity to educate the general public on retirement and pensions, it's always a great pleasure. So this afternoon we'll be talking about planning towards retirement, and then we're looking at pitfalls to avoid, and also taking advantage of the opportunities on our journey into retirement. This is going to be the structure of my brief presentation. We'll look at retirement, an overview of the three-tier pension scheme. Then we'll look at the pitfalls, as I said, pitfalls to avoid, and then opportunities that exist, and then our closing statement. So what is retirement? There are various definitions for retirement, but basically, or simply, retirement is the withdrawal from one's active working life. So it's forced or voluntary withdrawal from the job market. You have been working for a certain number of years, and the time comes when the government says you are no longer allowed to work. You have to go and rest. Whether you're ready or not, you have to go and rest. So in Ghana, mandatory or compulsory retirement age is 60. But you can opt for early retirement at 55, or in some cases 50. Okay, so basically that is retirement, and it's a time when now your source of income is going to change, from earned income to private investments, annuities, social security. So this is where what you've been able to put away is going to start working for you. Okay, the world famous. Yes, sir.
Can I just interrupt to make this quick announcement?
Okay.
Just to let you know, and all those who are participating, that for purposes of education, we want to record this meeting so that at least everybody knows that we're recording it for, those who are not able to participate now, we can still share it with them. So for your notice and for all who are participating, that this meeting is being recorded. Thank you very much. Sorry, you can continue.
No, that's fine. Thank you. So as I was saying, the world famous heavyweight boxer George Foreman, when he lost his last fight in 1997 to Shannon Biggs, a lot of people were asking him if he wasn't going to retire, because at that point he was in his late 40s. He was 48 actually. So he said that he doesn't see retirement as he doesn't think retirement is an age, but it's at what income that you want to retire. So yes, the government says you have to retire by a certain age, but how prepared are you to retire at that age? So he feels when he has made enough, that's when he wants to retire. So you can decide how you retire. There's a mandatory retirement age, but if you have made adequate preparations for your retirement, then nothing stops you from deciding to retire at even 35, because you have prepared well and you will be able to take care of your next 35 or 40 years without a problem. So retirement planning is very important. So it's the preparation process for life after paid work ends. That is what retirement planning is. There are three main stages of retirement planning that we look at. So there's the young adulthood, there's the early midlife, and then there's the later midlife. So the young adulthood is between 21 to 35, where most people are now starting their first jobs. So they are probably fresh out of school and they are now starting their first job. So they are very young, which means that they have a lot of time until retirement, which means once they start preparing for retirement, then they would need just a little bit, because of the principle of compounding interest, to be able to maximize their returns and hit a certain target by the time they are 60. Now, the problem here is people usually at this stage are not earning too much, but they have the time. So the little that you have is very important that you start with at that age. Then you have your early midlife, which is between 36 and 50. And this is where most people would now be moving into middle management, would be married and have a child or two or maybe three, probably have certain personal loans, have certain mortgages, but now they are earning a bit more now. And they have a bit of time, but they have a lot of expenses at this age. It's very important that even at this age, you should also start. If you haven't started already, you still have a bit of time, you still have a bit more time, and you have enough resources to start with. So the early midlife is also a good time to start your retirement planning journey. Then we have the later midlife, which is between 50 to 65, where most people are now getting close to their retirement. So at this point, you cannot get into a lot of planning because you are almost there. You should have done a lot of planning prior to. But here's a time that you have limited time, but you have a lot more funds. And you may probably have been able to pay off your mortgages or your loans. You've probably paid off your children's education. So you probably have just what you have left in your fund to be able to retire with. Now the question is that enough? Would that be enough? Now, the older you are, the less time you have until retirement, which means that whatever you have to be contributing towards your retirement has to be a lot more than 10 years prior or 20 years prior. Okay, so to go further into it, I'd just like to give us a brief overview of the three-tier pension scheme, which is the pension structure that we are currently running here in this country, Ghana. So in 2008, a new act was passed, which came to replace the old pension scheme. So with the new act, it splits your pension contributions into 3 tiers. So we had your tier 1, you have your tier 1, your tier 2, and your tier 3. Your tier 1 is part of your mandatory basic pension, which is 13.5% of your basic that is paid to SNIT, and out of that 13.5, 2.5% is paid to finance the National Health Insurance Levy. Now, when you go on retirement, this tier 1 that you've been contributing to SNIT, once you have contributed a minimum of 15 years, you qualify for a monthly pension, or what we call a monthly annuity from SNIT when you hit 60 or when you retire, once you've done a minimum of 15 years. Now, what you are going to be receiving month on month will be based on a formula. Okay, so they pick your 3 best years, the average of your 3 best years salary, and then multiply it by 0.375% to calculate, to determine how much you are going to be earning every month when you go on retirement. So all that is being financed by your 13.5% that was contributed on your behalf by your employer. Then the tier 2, which is also part of the mandatory basic pension, but the tier 2 is paid to a private trustee, a private corporate trustee like enterprise trustees, and that is 5% of your basic. So this 5% of your basic, month on month, that is being paid to the private trustee. When you retire, that 5% is going to be paid to you as a lump sum. So it's that 5% plus the investment returns over the years that you've been contributing to the scheme is what will be paid to you as a lump sum, and it will be paid by the corporate trustee. So that is a one-time payment that's made to you. You can decide to take it as a lump sum, or you can decide to take it in periodic drawdowns over a period of time, maybe over a certain number of months or a certain number of years. It's entirely your choice, but it's going to be paid to you by the corporate trustee. Now, tier 1 and tier 2 is your basic mandatory basic pension. So what this means is this is the barest minimum that you need to be able to survive in retirement, the barest minimum that you need to be able to keep body and soul together. So it means that your transportation, your feeding, your clothing, maybe rent, this should be barely enough to pay for all those bills when you go on retirement. Now, the problem here is most of us don't want to just retire on basic. We don't want to just retire on basic. You've worked 35 years or 40 years of your adult life. Now that you're going on retirement, you don't want to retire basic. You want to do things that maybe you did not have the time and the resources to do when you're in active employment. Maybe if it's travel, maybe if it's pay for certain expenses that you always wanted to acquire. This is the time. So your basic would not be enough. So then there is a third tier, which is a voluntary scheme. Okay, so you are going to nominate to say, okay, I want to make extra or additional contributions towards my retirement. So then I will sign up to a tier 3 or a personal pension scheme where I will decide how much I want to retire with. So what my employer is paying for me for my tier 1 and my tier 2, it's there, that's fine. But I say that I want to travel, or I want to be paying this, I want to do this when I retire. So I'm going to make those additional payments so that when I retire, I can have the time and the resources to, live how I want to live. Okay. Now, the third tier is also targeted at the informal sector. So both the formal and the informal sector is catered for by the new Pension Act. So the third tier is also for the informal sector, employees in the informal sector, or traders, or people running their own businesses in the informal sector that don't have a tier one and a tier two. So the tier three, which although is voluntary, is an opportunity for people in the informal sector to also contribute towards their pension, to be able to contribute towards their retirement. Okay, so that is a brief overview of uh, our pension structure, our pension scheme as we have it in the country currently. So a few pitfalls to avoid. The first one would be cashing out on your provident fund when you change jobs. Okay, most of the time when people are moving from one employer to another, and they have a provident fund with their old employer, most of the time the rules state that they can encash on their provident fund when they are changing jobs. So a lot of people see it as an opportunity to, make certain expenditure that they've been planning to do all this while. So once they change jobs, they go and access their PF, and then they go and buy that vehicle or buy whatever it is that they want to use that money for. But the problem here is the reason for starting the provident fund scheme was because you were targeting your retirement. So you cashing out your PF now means you are selling you're reducing your retirement income by that amount. And what the compounding interest that would have compounded would have compounded on your contributions. Okay, so you are denying yourself of that if you are cashing it now. So it's advisable that when you are changing jobs, you don't cash on your PF, you maintain it, or if there is a very pressing need, you take a small percentage and you keep the rest in your provident fund so that it continues to grow. Because the principle of compounding interest is very, very, very important. Interest is compounded daily. So once the amount is in there, every day you're earning something on it. Every day you're earning something on it. So it's very important that you don't cash in on your PF when you change jobs. Same goes for S gratia and ESB. Okay, the second one is over-reliance on mandatory pension schemes. A lot of people also are of the opinion that once there's the tier one and tier two, they are okay. But as I said earlier, that is basic. It's supposed to just give you the basic to survive. If anything extra comes in, any extra expense comes in, you're in trouble, because this is just the basic that you are going to need. So being over-reliant on the mandatory schemes is really not a good idea. It's important that we make additional contributions, because the mandatory contributions, the tier one and the tier two, is not enough. Okay, and then there's also the people who also say that they've invested in their children, so their children will take care of them when they go into retirement, when they go on retirement. Please, that's a red flag. If your children decide to take care of you in retirement, it's a plus, yes. But don't plan with that in mind. Don't plan with that in mind, because they are also going to grow up, have their own families, have their own responsibilities. So what might be coming to you might be, it might be pittance. It might not be enough. Okay, so it's very important that you have your own pension plan, you have your own retirement plan that you are going to go by, so that when you retire, you are going to receive a sizable income on your retirement. Okay. Then there's also the use of economic challenges. Some people also say, times are hard, they don't have extra money. Times are hard, they don't have extra money. But human beings, we have insatiable needs, meaning that our needs are insatiable. Our needs are never met 100%. So we would always want more. An example is the person walking, sees someone on a motorcycle, and he says that, once he's able to buy that motorcycle, his life will be fine. He'll be okay. He'll be sorted. He buys that motorcycle. Then he sees someone in a sedan, a small sedan. He's like, but if I'm able to buy this small saloon car, I'll be okay. Now I'll be on four wheels, so I can go from A to B. I think I'll be okay. God blesses him, works hard, is able to acquire that sedan. Now, once he gets that sedan, it's like, oh, but these Ghana roads, these bumpy roads and potholes, it would be very good if I get a 4x4. 4x4s are very expensive. But I feel that once I get the 4x4, I'll be okay. He buys the 4x4, and the next thing you know, you see someone who has a private jet. So it goes on and on, on and on. So there's never there's never enough. There's never enough. So if you are going to wait till you have enough before you start putting something away for your retirement, then you keep waiting and waiting, and before you realize it, you are 60 and you're in trouble. So please, regardless of how little you are going to start with, start. Yes, you could have started yesterday. That would have been a great time, but it's okay. Yesterday is gone. You have today to start it. Okay, so let's not use economic challenges as an excuse. Um, not checking on your pensions contributions. So, as I said, your employer is making some contributions on your behalf. You are also making your contributions to your personal pension fund. Now, it's important to be checking all the time, regularly. Have access to your funds. You have access to your contributions. So, at any point in time, you can check your statement, make sure that your employer has been paying month on month on month. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but now SNIT itself sends statements randomly to, they just send statements to everybody randomly. So you be there, you receive a statement of account. It just shows how your contributions over the past how many years that you've been on the scheme. We also do that with our clients and our customers as well. So we send them regular statements so that they know how much their funds have accrued, the interest that has accrued over the past how many years or how many months that they've been on the scheme. And we also have digital, we have mobile apps and, digital means that you can also use to check yourself. So if you are not even hearing from your corporate trustee or from SNIT, you should be able to go online and check your own statement. Make sure your contributions are being paid and are being paid on time, and the fund is doing properly. You should ask questions. If there's a gap somewhere, you should ask questions. Don't leave it to chance, because if there are gaps, as in by gaps, I mean missing months in your statement, and you don't address it and you go on retirement or you hit 60, those gaps would be months or monies that you would have lost, and the interest over the last 10 or 15 years that you may have lost. So it's good to always be checking your statements, checking your contributions, checking to even update your beneficiaries on your account. So maybe when you are signing up onto the scheme, or even for SNIT, when you are signing up, maybe you were not married, you do not have children then. So maybe you use a relative or a friend or whoever, and it stays like that. It's important that you check, and when your life changes, when there are changes in your life, you have children, you're married, you check and you update. So they will be your beneficiaries. When there's a claim, touch wood, if you had to pass before your retirement, that's who we are going to be making those payments to. You don't want us to go and pay to that random person or that you put on the account 20 or 25 years ago and forgot to change it. So it's very important to be checking on your pension account all the time, and also updating your beneficiaries, as I said. Another point.
There's a lot of information that Matekole is sharing, so I will encourage you to jot down your questions as it goes along, so that at the end of the presentations, that we can ask questions on the things that you say. I'm jotting mine down, so please jot yours down so that when it's done, we can ask the questions. Sorry about that. Please go on.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you very much. Okay, another very important thing to note is negotiating rights when you are starting a new job. Okay, sometimes when you are entering a new establishment, a new employment, when you see the REM package, if it's giving you more allowances than your basic, you are excited, because it means that you are going to be paying less tax, so you are going to have a lot more take home at the end of the month. So you're excited about it. But the problem is your your TYT is paid on your basic. not on your entire take home. So it's paid on your basic salary. So you should negotiate properly so that a lot more of your allowance, a lot more of your REM will be pushed into your basic. Okay, so it means that a bigger contribution, a bigger amount is being contributed to your pension, your tier one, your tier two, and your tier three, because they're all percentages of your basic. So it's always good to negotiate well. Let's not be too keen on chasing bigger allowances because that's instant gratification, and we will be doing that at the expense of our future, and that's not right. So let's not do that. Also, not having a documented retirement plan. As I said, it's very important to have a plan. Okay, have a plan how you are going to plan for your retirement. Have a plan towards it, where you are going to invest, what you are going to invest, how much you are going to invest, over what period of time. Um, and in doing that, you should also estimate your recurring expenses, because once you go into retirement, there are some expenses that cease, others reduce, and some are constant. If anything, they will even rise. So it's very important to watch out for the third category that I spoke about, expenses that are constant, that may even rise. Some are some are basic house bills, and a lot of other things. Because in our part of the world, yes, you have people that actually have children late into their formative years, much later on. So they end up, yes, you're in retirement, but you have children that are in basic school or kindergarten. So that tells you have another 10 or 15 years of school fees to be paid. So you need to estimate all these things. So you know how much you are going to be spending. You have a projected amount of how much you're going to be spending. So then that should even advise how much you should be projecting at earning. So you have a plan towards it. So it means that if I want to have investment returns, investment income of maybe, for argument's sake, maybe 5,000 cedis every month. When I retire, it means that I need to contribute X amount every month whilst I'm in active service. So when I retire, that amount that I've been contributing plus the returns, I can be collecting month on month that 5,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 that I need to survive comfortably. Okay, so it's very good to have a retirement plan and to review it yearly, because a lot of changes happen in a year. Inflation hits, prices go up, we can change jobs, we can get increase in salaries, or people can lose their jobs. So there are changes. So whilst there are changes in your life, whilst the changes keep happening in your life, it's good to also, be reviewing your plan for your retirement. So if you need to adjust in certain ways, you do. And also, it's very important to seek professional advice. Okay, there are licensed investment houses in the country. One way of knowing who is in good standing and who is not is to always check with the regulator. So you can go to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can go to the National Pension Regulatory Authority, which is the NPRA, which is the regulator for the pension space in Ghana. You can go to these regulators and find out which companies or which trustees or which fund managers are in good standing that you can actually do business with. Okay, so you can go to these places, seek professional help, seek professional advice. I want to retire comfortably. How can I go about that? How can you help? What do I need to do? How much do I need to be putting away? How often do I need to be making those contributions? This is what I have currently. How much will it yen, or how much will it be worth in the next 15 years? Based on a certain calculation. So there are professionals that can help you with these figures. So it's always important to seek professional advice all the time. And this is another very important part of the retirement conversation. So it's medical bills. Okay, a lot of the time, people start accruing or start having health issues in retirement. Or even if they are not having health issues, your regular visit to the doctor or the regular visit to the hospital, when you are in active service, you probably had a private health insurance cover that was being paid for by your employer. So you just need to go to the hospital with your card, and you get the best care that you need. Now, most of that ceases when you retire because you are ending service with whatever institution it is that you're working with. So it means that you're no longer going to have um, that private health, that access to private health any longer. So you are going to, if you have a national health insurance card, yes, you can use that, but that has limited cover. That has limited cover, and it doesn't pay for certain things or certain ailments that may afflict people in older age. Okay, so it's very important to pay attention to the health part of your retirement plan. So you can do this by subscribing to a private health insurance. So there are private health insurance companies that have specific covers for people, for retirees. Let me put it that way. Okay, most don't have, but there are there are selected few that actually do that. It's a bit pricey, but you get the adequate cover that you need when you retire. So it's good to do some research and sign up for one of these private medical covers, or even take out a life insurance cover that has a critical illness cover that extends into retirement. I keep adding extends into retirement because it's a clause that most people don't look at. But most of these covers ceases at 60. So you need to do a lot of research to find out which ones give you that extended cover. So those are the ones you go for. If you go for a regular one at 60, cover ceases, you're back to square one. So it means that in this case, you are going to have to use your hard-earned retirement savings to pay for healthcare. Okay, and when people don't plan properly for retirement, within the first 3 years of retirement, you get a lot of cases of depression, you get a lot of cases of anxiety, because now people have realized that, okay, it's just 3 years in retirement, and they've probably run out. They've probably gone through whatever small monies they had put together because there was no plan. There was no plan. So they've actually gone through whatever they received for their pensions. And now they are back to square one. Then you are 64 and you probably have a health issue. So how are you going to survive? How are you going to survive? The thing about retirement is not the end of your life. It's just the end of your working life. So there's even the possibility that you could even live up to 30 years after retirement or 40 years. You never know. You can't tell. Nobody can tell how long anybody can live. But there's a possibility that you can live very long after retirement. Now, how are you going to survive for that length of time? You spend the last 35 years in active service, so you're receiving monthly income and allowances and whatnot. Now you're spending the next 40 years surviving on what? That's where the question comes in. Surviving on what? Okay, so it's very important to make adequate provision for your health, okay, to take care of expenses in your retirement. And as I already said, not having a documented plan on how to spend your accumulated funds. So have a documented plan, a documented retirement plan, but also have a documented retirement plan on how you are going to spend your accumulated funds. You need to spend it wisely because, as I said, it's the beginning of your other life after work, and you could live very long. So if you're going to live very long, how are you going to survive on whatever it is that you received? If it's a lump sum that you received, or if it's monthly pensions that you're going to be receiving from state, how are you going to survive? How are you going to spend it? You should have a plan for it. So let's not be ambiguous about these things. Let's be very specific. This is my plan, and I'm sticking by it, because you don't want to be miserable in your old age. If you're 35 and you're out of a job, you're strong enough, have the qualification, have the strength, you can look for a new job. At 65, same can't be said for you. So if you don't prepare adequately, it might not be a good time for you. Nobody wants that. Me, I don't want that. So I try as much as possible to stick to a plan, have a plan, stick to it, and also advise people to do the same. Because if you are able to plan properly and you're able to retire well, you don't want people around you struggling. you want the people around you to also be able to do same, so that you are all comfortable. Else, it becomes your headache again. So although you have prepared properly, people around you haven't. Now they become they become reliant on you or dependent on you again. Then you are also back to square one. Okay. Then not paying premium attention to health and social life, childbirth, marriage, relationship. It's very important that in your planning you plan for these things. You plan your marriage. You plan childbirth. We don't leave it to chance. So you know that you want to have children by a certain age, so that by a certain age, let's say by 55, all your children would have been done with school. So you're not paying school fees in retirement. It's a very important thing to note, unless that's what you want to do. But I don't think a lot of people want to be doing that. So you need to plan your social life as well. Okay, your marriages, your childbirth. It's important that you plan those as well. Let's not leave it to chance. Okay, and in all your planning, you should also account for inflation, because year on year inflation inflation changes. So you should also account for inflation. So if you are contributing a certain amount, you should also factor in a yearly increment because of inflation. So if I'm contributing 100 cities, I should factor in maybe, on average, you have a 10% year on year inflation rate. So maybe I decide that I'll have a 10% increment on my contributions year on year. So my 100 cities will go up by 10% next year, go up by another 10% the year after. Okay. And then let's also not be too ambitious with interest returns. In pursuit of very high returns, a lot of people have landed in trouble. And I know I don't have to mention any names, any institutions here, but I believe we are all aware. We've seen what has happened in the financial services sector over the past 3, 4, 5 years. Okay, all in pursuit of very ambitious returns, because some of these institutions come in and promise very, very high returns. So you would rather go jump on those ones, and then it hits the fan and you're in trouble. Okay, so let's not be too ambitious with returns. So no. Let's be very measured in our expectations on returns. Let's not be chasing very, very high returns. Okay, and also you should be reviewing your insurance policies. As I said, you should have insurance policies. Okay, you should have a group life policy. You should have a critical illness policy. They are very important, and you should be reviewing them. You should be reviewing the sums assured, as in what will be paid out in the event of a claim. You should be reviewing it so it's in line with the times, inflation, and everything that comes in. You should factor all those in, so that you are not left at the short end of the stick. Okay. And lastly, playing the stock market when you're nearing retirement. Stocks are very risky. So yes, they can generate very high returns sometimes, and then they can easily also create a lot of losses in a matter of minutes. So you have to be very careful if you decide to invest in stocks. But the older you are, the less that should be an option. Okay, the older you are, you should actually move away, or you should be moving away from stocks if you're nearing 55, or you're getting closer to retirement, because then you have to be more conservative with your investment approach. Okay, you don't have to go for such risky ventures like equities and stocks. So the closer you get to retirement, the more conservative you should be with your retirement approach. So there are a few opportunities that entail. Okay, so you have to allot more control over your retirement readiness. Okay, now because of the Act 766, you have a lot more control, because they have introduced a voluntary pension scheme together with the Act. So it means that now you have a lot more control. You can decide how you retire. Previously, when it was all SNIT, it means that everything you are contributing is going to SNIT for your mandatory tier 1, tier 2. It wasn't enough, obviously, but now you have a lot more control. So take advantage of it. Invest in a personal pension or personal retirement account for your retirement, for just you, and put as much as you can, put as much as you can afford to, as much as you can, because you're thinking of tomorrow. Tomorrow is more important. You're not going to be earning income in your retirement. So this is what you are going to be living on when you retire. So it's important to put as much away as possible. And as I said, because of the new act, now you have a lot more control. You have the opportunity to start a dedicated retirement fund. As I said, you should avoid general savings. So when you speak to some people about pensions or about retirement, they'll tell you, or preparedness for retirement, they'll tell you, they've put they have a savings account, that's enough. They have a savings, that's enough. But you see, that's the problem. That's what we call a general saving approach. When you have a general saving account, it means that everything you are saving is going into that account. That also means that once a need arises, you will go into that account to make a withdrawal, because it's a general saving pot that you've created. So a need arises, you need to pay this money urgently. It could be rent, it could be a mortgage, it could be once that need arises, you go into that same pot. And that paying of my children's college tuition, have goals and have specific funds for it. So let's avoid a general saving, putting everything in one pot. No, let's be specific. So you will not go into a retirement fund to make a withdrawal when you need to pay fees or you need to pay rent. So let's set up dedicated retirement funds. And we should also be aware of the tax waivers that we get to enjoy with the new Pensions Act. Okay, so we have up to 16.5% a tax waiver for our voluntary. So your tier 1, your tier 2 comes up to 37.5%. So you have up to 16.5% for your voluntary pensions contribution. That will be tax exempt, so you will not pay taxes on that. And you should also note that your retirement funds or your your retirement benefits are tax exempt as well. And it's important to note that, because in other jurisdictions that's not the case. In other jurisdictions, you are taxed on your pensions. Okay, but over here, thankfully, we are not. And then the last thing is time. Save as much as you can, as early as you can. As I stated with the 3 stages of retirement planning, time is a very, very important factor in retirement planning. Save as much as you can, as early as you can, regardless of how small. Start early and be consistent, because of the power of compounding interest. Okay, once you've built that consistency over the years, over the months, over the years, the funds grow for you. So I'll show you a very basic simulation to demonstrate the power of compounding interest, as I was saying. So we'll pick 3 people: Joseph, Peter, Emmanuel, at various ages, various stages in their lives. Okay, and we'll look at each of them paying the same amount or starting off with the same amount, and how much that will earn them by the time they are 60. So Joseph is 53 and Emmanuel is 33. Peter is 43. Joseph has 7 years to hit 60. So it means he has 7 years until retirement. And each one is starting off with 300 cedis. Okay, factoring in a 10% yearly update, as I said, because of inflation. Should I proceed, please? Or someone wants to ask?
Please
I can hear. I should go ahead. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm almost done. Yeah, so Joseph is 53, has 7 years until retirement, starting off with 300 cedis. And we are factoring in a 10% yearly update because of inflation. Okay, and we are assuming an interest rate of 15% per annum compounded daily. In that 7 years, he will have 57,000 cedis by the time he hits 60. Peter at 43, also starting with 300, will have 483. And now Emmanuel, who is 33, having 27 years until retirement, starting off with the same 300, will have 2.7 million. So that's how compounding interest works. It's very good. It's very, very key that you start early when you have the chance, and it builds over time for you. Okay. So these are just uh, extended projections of our simulator. Okay. So priority setup. Why we need to prioritize the setup of our additional dedicated fund. UN population data says that Ghana has steadily, the risk of living long, steadily and continuous increase life expectancy in Ghana has gone up slightly over the past 3 years. So it's moved from 63.65 in 2018 to 64 years in 2020. So it means that gradually people are beginning to live longer. So yes, chances are you will live longer after your retirement. So there's a need to prioritize your setting up of a dedicated pension fund or dedicated retirement fund, as I said. Okay. Then there's also the need to replace your end salary with investment income. And the earlier you start, the less you need to save to achieve the same desired retirement fund. So principle of compounding interest once again. So it's very important that we prioritize our retirement. The 34th President of the United States of America, Dwight Eisenhower, said that don't let your learning lead to knowledge, let your learning lead to action. You've heard it, you've learned it. Don't just keep it as knowledge, but act upon it. Let it not be said that we stood knee deep in water and we died of thirst. There's abundance of information now out there on retirement and how you can maximize your efforts so that you have a comfortable retirement. So let's take this feedback, let's take this information, these bits and pieces that we keep getting, let's take it seriously and act upon it. It's very important. Okay, so that would be almost the end of my presentation. I would just like to add that at Enterprise Trustees, besides our Tier 1 and Tier 2, we also have a dedicated personal pension, a voluntary personal pension plan for the general public. So you don't even have to be an existing client. You can be a new client, but you can easily sign up to a personal pension, which is an individual retirement investment plan to help boost your retirement income. As I said, it's flexible. You can decide to pay daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or even annually. And over the past 6-7 years that it's been in inception, we've enjoyed an average 15.75% return, which is reasonable, which is really reasonable when you look at it over the past years. And anybody can join, regardless of your age. Anybody can join our personal pension scheme and save for their retirement. So whether you're in the formal sector or you're in the informal sector, you can join it. And you can sign up via our various means. We have a mobile app, and then we have a USSD. And it's not just signing up, but once you signed up, you can also use these same tools to check on your statements, as I said earlier on, which is very key, or to make amendments or to even make additional contributions. So I have a client that decides that every single day before they go to bed, they will put something in their personal pensions. So what they do is, at the end of the day, whatever they have on their Momo, be it as little as 20 or 30 cedis, they'll push it to their Momo. So he said he tried that for the first month and he realized that at the end of the month, he had made 500 cedis additional contribution. These are contributions that he wasn't even intending to, but he just decided, okay, I have this little, let me push it there. So unconsciously, it became a habit. Unconsciously, it became. So every time you have the chance to do that, regardless of how little it is, it will earn something for you. So just push it into a personal pension. So in closing, yesterday is gone, tomorrow has not yet come. So we only have today. Let's begin. It's good that we start now. It's good that we start now. We don't have yesterday, it's gone. But we have today to start. Okay. And Mark Twain said the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Let's get started. If we've not already started, let's start now. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That is it from my end on planning towards retirement. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. I'm sure you will hang around a wee bit. Hello, somebody.
I'll be here. I'll be here for the questions after after Elder presents. So I'll be here.
Signed on as AA. Can you mute your microphone, please? Somebody signed on. Okay, thank you very much, AA. Great. Good. So, Mr. Makotokoli, we are grateful that you hung on for Mr. Aye's presentation, and after that, we can have an open discussion. I believe that people have written down their questions, and there are a few that I also have here. So after Aye's presentation, then we can take all together. Some will come to you, some I believe will also go to Eda Aye. All right, so Eda, we'll take your presentation, and then after that, we'll have an open forum for those of us here in the church auditorium, and for our friends who are also online. We can all ask your questions. When it's time for the interaction, I'll humbly ask that you raise your hand. We'll see it on the platform, and then we'll call you, and then you can unmute your mic and then ask your questions. Okay, so that will be the protocol when we get to the question and answer. For those of us here in the auditorium, you can simply just raise your hand, and then we'll call you, bring a microphone to you so that everybody can hear what you are saying. All right, so Ada, is it okay? We can start with you now, and then we'll take the Aye's presentation, and then after that, we'll go into the interaction session.
Hello. Looks like I still can't share my. Oh, okay. Okay, let me just. Give me a minute to just get on there. Okay, I think we are good to go. Thank you very much. Let me associate myself with what Mr. Makotokoli said. As far as the financing bill is concerned, I think he has touched on all that we need to touch on. If you have questions, maybe we can discuss some experience sharing and so on. So whilst I've titled this retirement planning, you see I won't get into the financials. It's the tail end of this presentation, so I won't get into it at all. I'll look at the other aspects. Maybe a few touch points as I go along, and that's all I'm going to do. I hope you can hear me though. Okay, so for me, retirement planning anytime is a wake-up call when you hear about it. For those of us who think we are too young to think about it, we need to do something about it. This is a survey done by Data Bank in 2015. The results were this: 3 out of 4 people surveyed were expecting either to depend solely on SNP pension or on other sources like their children, their family, etc. They're making no effort whatsoever to supplement the pension. And I'm sure if you listen to Mr. Makotokoli, you'd see that that certainly is not adequate unless you want to probably remain under the poverty line. The reality, as he said, is that the pension, SNP pension, will give you no more than 60% of your 3 best years average salary. So when you are getting 100%, if you couldn't survive, ask yourself how you are going to make it under 100 with 60% at best. Okay, so that's very important. Then again, the survey came up with another interesting revelation. About 23%, that's a quarter, end up trying to change their birth dates, their age, so that they can keep on working because they are not ready. If you're one of those, it simply means you didn't prepare. It's so important that you get to understand as early as possible, you should be preparing for retirement. This is another interesting one. They found out that only 2% of the people they surveyed understand retirement enough to be actively preparing to be independent financially by the time you go on retirement. I don't know about you, but it's possible. But the reality is, if I were to share the statistics from other countries, you'll see that it's no different. Indeed, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they found out that in the US, if you survey people, less than 20% had investment of $1,000 towards retirement. They were hoping they would get onto pension and be okay. But that is not reality. This I won't go into. Safe to say, I think Mr. Matiko Collier has already gone into this. Safe to say that you'll find that I tag on at the end of third tier other private investments. I keep saying that the person who doesn't have SNITs at all is in grave danger. You don't know what's going to happen to you, maybe even before 60 when you are mandatorily required to retire. But if you have SNIT alone, you are better than the one who doesn't have anything at all. If you have SNIT and the second tier, which is now mandatory, you are better than the one who doesn't have anything at all. If you have the third tier as well, you're obviously better. The person who tags on another level of investment is clearly even better than the others. So I will encourage all of us to take that seriously. Now, going forward, the first part here is what I'll look at very quickly. Retirement, it's certainty, the why, how, and how, when to prepare, and then the basis of preparation. So we'll do that very quickly. I won't touch the second part at all. So Mate Collier has done that. So retirement, whether you like it or not, is imminent. For some of us, more than some. But for all of us, it is waiting in the wings for you. You see how you're going to feel when you go on retirement? That somebody is taking your money from you because your money is not adequate, or you're going to feel this way. It's a matter of choice. What will be your retirement like? Happy to go, or you think you're struggling with the rest of the world to catch what you think you deserve? A biblical viewpoint very quickly. I'm sure we're all aware of this text, Psalm 90:10, which says, our lifespan is 70, that's 70 years. If by matter of strength you are gifted, you probably will go to 80. And at 80, you're struggling day to day just to move around. So lifespan, 70 to 80 years. What does it say about work and retirement? You remember that the children of Israel operated a theocracy. God was the ruler, and so they fitted within God's government. So the key civil and public servants were the Levites. If you want to go back and read Numbers chapter 4, you understand the context better. It allocated jobs for the Levites, each of tribes under Levi. And for each of them, it's described them as entering work at age 30 and stopping work at age 50. So start work at 30, retire at 50. So that was sort of the context they had. So even in the Bible, there was provision made for retirement. And it fits in so well with some classic examples in the Bible that we find. We find Joseph. If you read the text I've quoted there, he started active work for Pharaoh. We are told he was in front of Pharaoh at age 30. Prior to 30, he had been preparing. What kind of preparation? Well, I'll talk a little bit about that. And that was when he really got into actively managing Egypt's wealth, which was essentially providing for the world. David also began to rule at age 30. Jesus, I'm sure you're all aware, started his ministry at age 30 and so on. There are others who started work earlier. For instance, Josiah became king at 8 years old and so on. So this is not standard, but in the Jewish economy, 30 was sort of the starting point. So up to 30, you are being groomed, you are being trained to take responsibility. You became a man, you must survive on your own. Even if we were to go with that, it means preparation. And you find in Deuteronomy chapter 6 and in chapter 11 that it says that we should start training children at home. So parents have a critical role even in this. When they lie down, when they wake up, when they sit in the house, when they are on the road. So the training is consistent in all aspects of life, including getting you ready to work, including getting you ready to manage the resources you generate from working. So over a 20-year period, they work hard, and after that, they are ready for retirement. The ages may have changed somewhat in our day, but the concept is the same, and we need to prepare. But let me just add this as well, that we need to put God first. If you leave God out, you are going to be in trouble. Let me step back again to the financials a little bit. Mr. Matikoli highlighted them very well. But let me put in this God context. If you start out with God, you understand He gives the resources to start with, and using it on His behalf. No matter how well you plan for retirement, there is something called inflation. A few years ago in Zimbabwe, they were carrying money in wheelbarrow loads. No matter how well you planned, you get to a point inflation overtakes you. So you got to do something about it. And again, there are risks. Although you made reference to people trying to get more return than they should. The last few years show that even those who were circumspect had problems. Not the pyramids, not the Ponzi schemes, but those who even invested in genuine investments, even state-owned entities, had problems. So one of the things, let me emphasize, diversify investment, diversify, and diversify again. You can't say enough of it. Let me share my experience with you. I had some investments, my money's got locked up. Government came in to bail us out. Recently, talking about months, government said, I'm paying 50,000 max for everybody, no matter how much you have. If I put all my money in one basket, all I'm going to have is 50,000. But because I diversified, I got 50 on each of the investments. So diversification is critical. Let me mention it up here. But beyond diversification, the people who do all that and yet still had problems. A few years ago, there was a story of Madoff in the US. I don't know if you heard about it. He died a few months ago, I guess. This was a con man. He was very knowledgeable, but he got into a Ponzi scheme. And he only dealt with very rich people. He got them to invest in him. And this elderly gentleman who had invested $750,000 for his retirement, he lost virtually everything. And he had to go back and start working again just to survive. What do? That's where the God factor comes in. If He is guiding, He makes way out for you in so many ways. Do your best and do. The God factor is important. So I say here that if you build without God, you are in trouble, as Psalm 127 says. And then Proverbs 3:5-6 emphasizes that trust in God. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him and He will direct your path. I think it's so critical that we will have it. Now, whether we like it or not, the day you are born, you start aging with the passage of time. This is what happens to you. You get to a point where you'd have to stop working. And then between that and when you die, it's anybody's guess. It could be 5, 10, 20, 30 years. I saw recently one of our pastors who I thought had passed away earlier, just passed away at 102. I was like, wow, I'm not sure I want to live up to that. But if you have to live up to 100, I hope you are ready. There's not that simple. So many other things come up, but I'm not finances, so I'll get to that. The question I ask is, for you, is it going to be a process or an abrupt change? If it's an abrupt change, yes, you didn't prepare. But that day will come, whether you like it or not. And that day, you walk out of the office, and that's it. Your working life is over. Your life is not over, your working life is over. So the rest of your life, what do you do? But like Mr. Matikol explained, it could be a process for you. So you have started. Indeed, it's been said that the day you start working is when you start planning for retirement. I'll just say that for parents, let's start helping our children to start retirement the day they can take decisions for themselves. So you start training them to manage resources even before they start working. That way, it's a matter of course, a normal thing to keep going. Unfortunately for us, most, if not all of us, will not be like Mayweather, who calls himself Mr. Money. He can afford to spend because he was worth so much money. He didn't see how he could finish spending it till he died. But unfortunately, there are people like him who become paupers because they are not wise about spending money. But most of us will not even have that kind of money, much less to think of spending like him. So let me just go back to the Bible again and talk about two principles. The ant principle, I call it. It says, go to the ant, consider his ways, and be wise. He provides his supply in summer and gathers his food in the harvest. So when there is a plenty, the ant is hard out there working. When the rain starts, he can't come out. He has food stored up for that time. And the Joseph principle, I call it. Joseph, like I said, at 30, was standing before Pharaoh explaining the dream to him. And then the Pharaoh said, who better than you to manage this scheme you have proposed? Put away some of the food during the bumper harvest of 7 years, so that during the 7 years of hunger, we'll have food. His advice was very simple. Put away 1/5, 20%. For me, it's a critical threshold. Put away 1/5 of the bumper harvest to ensure it carries us through. Other figures have been bandied around. For me, I keep saying my target is 20% of your earning saved and invested. That will be my target. If you can do better, well, great. But target that. You might start small. I think on the Adventist website says start at 4%. Whatever you can start, even what, start. Don't wait. But target 20 as soon as possible. If you can by 50, get to the point where you have at least an equal amount of passive income, like your active income. You are ready to retire at that point. Active income, you must be working day and night to earn. Passive income, your money is working for you and you're getting return on it. So the earlier you can get to that, the better. That is not to say kill yourself. That is not to say kill yourself. That's why I'm not talking absolute figures. I'm talking percentages. Once it's a percentage, it doesn't matter whether you earn 1 million cedis a month or 100 cedis a month. 20% is 20 of what you have, not what somebody else has. Don't compete with anybody. You do the best that you can. And with that, Joseph was able to feed Egypt and all else who came. And I'll recommend strongly the target 20%. Right now, as aging catches up with us and retirement comes, remember this. The only challenge is this: change. There's going to be a change. Change and how to adjust and manage the change. That is the critical thing. Certain things will change. Critically, we have talked about that, reduced income. At best, pension, you get 60% of the best 3 years. So your income is going to reduce. Secondly, and very important, which I'll focus on more than the money, altered social role. I'll show you a picture shortly, and then we'll talk about that. And then entitlement. You think you are very important. Go and report retirement and you see that you are not that important after all. Somebody tells a story of he being in the US, one of the deputy secretaries of state. So in a particular year, he was invited to a function. At the airport, they met him, picked him up, took him to a hotel, checked him in, and all that. The next day, they picked him, took him to the workshop. And then they asked him, do you want some tea or coffee? When he said yes, they brought him some coffee and some porcelain earthenware utensils. Exactly the year after, when he was no more in that position. He got invited and he went. This time, you know what? He had to pay for his own airfare. He had to pay for participation. And this time around, when he got there, nobody asked him, do you want some coffee? He asked, can I get some? They showed him where the coffee machine is. He had to go and get a paper cup and collect it. And as he sat there, he said he was thinking about this and he said, wow. So it's not about me, it's about the position. Remember that. But very importantly, and I think Ransford mentioned it as well, health issues, big time. The older you get, health issues will catch up with you. So then the question is, the worst and best parts of retirement are, you are going to lose your identity. That identity you have, up to when you stop work, you will lose it. And you need to find a new one. That new you, what is it going to be like? That's critical. That's what makes the difference. Are you going to follow good habits or bad? That will determine what you do. Now, let me show you this. It's sort of a brief one. The last statements President Obama made at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The interesting thing for me is this one, this picture. When he finished his speech, he dropped the mic to say, hey, I'm not in authority anymore. He said, even his party people, when he calls them, some of them will choose, forget it. I don't want to talk to this guy anymore. I'm not going to get anything from him. All of us will get to that point, or have gotten to that point. You will not be relevant to them anymore. So you are out. But if you are out, so what? There has been the mentality that because I work, I am. And we are so fixated about our job that that's what we live for. Some of us don't even go on leave because we are afraid when we go on leave, somebody will take our job. But you need to change from that at retirement to, I am retired and I'm happy, or even happier still. That's what did reference, you have opportunity to do the things you want to do now. But is that the case? A lot of people, it's not a matter of what you want to do. Even when he was working, he didn't have the resources to do what he wanted to do. He's talking about doing what you want to do in retirement. The traditional mode is you are old and retired people can't do much. Indeed, in some circumstances, they tell you they are expired. You don't have to be expired. And they need to be only accommodated. Well, they are not gone yet. Let's accommodate them. You don't need to be accommodated only. You can have a life of your own. This certainly is unacceptable. And like they say, it's thumbs down for this. What should you do? You'd want to feel productive and valued in terms of your economic and social life. And a very critical part of it is being restless. You close from work yesterday. Actually, the worst part is if it's not a Friday. Maybe you finish on a Monday or Tuesday. And then Wednesday, you wake up. Some people even subconsciously start dressing up to go to work, forgetting that it's over. You are not supposed to be in the office anymore. Actually, some go to work and hang around. And people start teasing them sooner than later. Why? Don't you have a home or something? But that's reality check. That is over. And you will sit at home if you have nothing planned. Just imagine the boredom. You're busy, you're running around, you think you're the best worker, going all over the place. And suddenly you wake up at home. You don't really have anything planned. You can sleep all the way to 10 o'clock or whatever, but you will wake up. Then what? The worst part is you are not on very good terms with them at home. You are the provider, so you scream at everybody at home. Now you come home. You are there all the time. You are there. Just imagine what it will be like. So you better start planning what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And once you find that thing which you really enjoy doing, time will fly. Because at the end of the day, you will not have had enough. Time would have gone on and so on. That's what you want your retirement to be. And it doesn't come by chance. You got to plan it. Other than that, you will be in trouble. Sorry. This was from a study. Apart from your paycheck, which is going to come, that's not the only one. There are important things as well. Like I've described, going and going and going. Because I go to work, somebody tells me what to do, I'll do it. At the end of the day, I get paid. So it's not just that, but the health issues, the inflation, etc. On the right in the red, let me read a couple to you. Some of us get into debt because we are spending more than we are earning. It is a no-no nearly in life. Somebody has said, smart debt is no debt at all. But if you should get into debt, it must be to generate more income than you are paying for that debt. If it isn't, it's not wise. And the earlier you start preparing for covering your back in emergencies, the better. So all of us need to start preparing, saving towards emergencies. They will come, whether you prepare for them or not. And that's why you get into debt. So you need to start early. Health, they say, is what? It's truly wealth in retirement. If you get into retirement and you are healthy, you better be thanking God every day. You know, I have this realization not about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. My classmates at secondary school, we went to visit a colleague who wasn't well. And as we sat, there was discussion, and I sat listening. I was saying, wow, I'm really blessed. They started telling what tablet, what medication they have to take daily. I was like, wow. You won't know until they tell you. And in the house, they are even encouraging me to take vitamins, and it is a war. And I said, wow, I must be really blessed. But we don't appreciate those things. They are really, really valuable stuff. No matter what your genetics, no matter what your environment, the older you grow, the more health issues you have. And so if you are healthy by God's grace, you better be thanking Him every day. And again, do everything you can to maintain that health. It is critical. Ransford has talked about investing multi-decade already. The retiring when you are physically and financially able to enjoy life is great news. Why? It's not always the case. In fact, this is what has been found. About 55%, let's say about 50% of retirees actually retire earlier than the mandatory age. About 50%. Question is, why? Two things. Health reasons. You might just wake up tomorrow and not be able to go to work anymore. Finish. You are retired. That's what it is. But people forget that. Or else you are thrown out of your job. There's downsizing or something. You're thrown out of your job. And you can't get a job. What do? About 3 years before I came on retirement, I almost went for voluntary retirement. I had issues. I went to SNE trying to do, and then I said, well, 3 years. Let me try it out. Let me just wait. Things turn around, like it can happen to anybody. So I have this philosophy, and I think it's a worthwhile thing in terms of managing your income. My income today is to meet today's costs and tomorrow's costs. The income, you have it today. Certain. Tomorrow, there's no guarantee you will have income. But I can assure you the cost. The costs, they won't stop, they will rather escalate. Income may or may not come tomorrow. So you better be preparing for tomorrow. not just retirement in 20, 30 years. It may come sooner than you think. So please make sure you are preparing for that. So the recommended antidote is very simple. I think Ransford mentioned it. Start planning and plan to implement your plans early. That young lady there thinks she thinks she has plenty of time, but time doesn't wait. It keeps going, and very soon she probably will be like the one she's staring, whose face she's staring into. It requires a balanced life, not just financial, balanced in all life spheres of life and in a disciplined way. And note, balance doesn't come easy. These are just pictures to show you. Balance in any way takes effort, practice, and determination. Whichever way you want to look at it. And it needs to be across all the aspects of your life, your family, your career, your health, your social life, etc. I use this picture to illustrate something. No matter what type of bike you want to ride, whether the exotic or the basic or this friend of ours, it takes balance. So no matter what your level it is, your life needs balance. And so I illustrate it with the wheel of life, starting with your spiritual as the primary. You can then talk about your professional or career life, intellectual or mental, physical, social, family, and then financial. Let me tell you, none of them ought to stop after retirement. If you stop any, you become imbalanced. You need to take them along. You might reduce some of them and increase some of them. But if you stop some of them completely, you become imbalanced. Let's focus on the non-financials a bit. This is saying that there's more to enjoying your retirement than money. We've talked about the money. I won't go into it. The key thing is, towards the end, let me say, it shouldn't just happen. You should plan it, such that you have the potential for freedom, to doing things, and the freedom that comes, you get to do that. So it is more putting that up front. What do I want to do? What do I need to do it? And that should inform your finance. It shouldn't be, there's been the saying that you should target getting $1 million, then you can retire. To do what? You think $1 million is a lot, it's a lot. But depending on how you live, you can become a pauper. I know this Nigerian footballer who became really rich. He was very good. He bought himself a private jet, was flying around. Today, he's a pauper. You can easily spend that money. I can assure you, no matter how much you put away. So for me, financials aside, or even included, S.D.A came to give us life. Not just any life, but help us live abundantly, and we ought to do that. What does that mean? Some of the things to look at. Settle on and plan for how to use your time. It is so, so important. A lot of people I'm told have died because they simply had nothing planned. You know, public servants, let me tell you about public servants, civil servants. Not just public servants, but senior public and civil servants. At the end of the year, you know what people give us as gifts? Drinks, alcoholic drinks of all sorts. I'm sure if I set up a store, I can sell drinks very easily. When they started giving it to me, I'll come and pour them out. This cousin of mine will come and say, "What are you doing? You're wasting money." So I decided to keep them. They are sitting there, I don't know what to do with them. So you know what public servants do? When they go on retirement, they have nothing to do. So what do? They start drinking. Then they become alcoholics. Before long, they are gone. So it happens quite often, reality. Because they are free drinks. And of course, there are others like them. So you would see that they have their friends come to them because they know they will get free drink. So they form the Drinkers Association. And they keep going until they are gone. So plan something. What do you want to do? And do it well. Set it up and do it consistently. It occupies your time and gives you sanity. Health issues, I think we've talked about it. Plan for and manage your health. I think we'll come back to that briefly. Secure the buy-in of spouse, your significant other, the family, in whatever decision you take. Don't go home and say, I am doing this. But discuss with your wife, discuss with your husband, discuss with the family. Agree that this is what we want to do. And get their buy-in so that you are doing it together. Once you are doing it together, you go home, you are just joining the team. You probably would have started it earlier. So you just become a natural member of the team. But if you don't, you're going to be in trouble. Let me share 2 stories very quickly. One of my colleagues at work was a much junior officer, but he was so excited going home after retirement. He said he would go home in the morning, the wife would wake him up, prepare tea and egg and bread and egg for him, and he was so excited. Why? He set up the wife in business. So when he went home, it wasn't a problem. But there are some of us, because we are the breadwinner, we go home and we are ordering everybody about. Get home, and suddenly the tips don't come anymore. Your salary has been reduced. Then you see that, wow, these are not the same. Now the table turns, and you see how they will treat you. They will treat you with contempt. You ask for things, everybody pretends they never heard you. It is critical to have that good relationship throughout. Don't wait till you are going on retirement to develop it. It won't work. Maybe let me mention this as well. Then the children too. Some of us, we are not ourselves saving towards taking care of ourselves. We're hoping our children will take care of us. And when they are in need, we don't care. And then you go on retirement and you think they are taking care of their mother. And ignoring, you ask for it. So those are things that are real. Let's be very careful. Continuous learning and adaptation to optimize changing circumstances. Things will keep changing. You never know. So you got to be ready to live the change and enjoy the change. Somebody has said there's always that child in us. Don't take yourself too seriously. You'll die before you know it. I mean, you will make mistakes. Laugh at yourself. Let people laugh at you, laugh at yourself, and go on with life. That's part of life. They laugh at you, so what? Hey, join them. And life will be much richer for it. Then you need to do the rebranding. The day comes, no more work. Indeed, if you go to the office, those guys who were saying, yes, sir, yes, sir. Some of them, they just hated you and they were waiting for you to go. But they didn't have a choice. You were their boss. You go to the office to ask for a favor and you see how they will treat you. It's not exactly the same thing, but let me share an experience with you. I used to work with the Minerals Commission. And when I go to see the minister, basically I call him and tell him I'm coming. I go and I basically tell the secretary I'm working. The day they moved me from the Minerals Commission to the ministry, actually before I got there, when they announced I have to move, I decided, let me go and see the minister. What exactly is happening? You know how long it took me to see him? Over 1 hour. I sat down waiting and waiting and waiting. Get ready for that. For me, I told myself, those are things that prepared me for retirement. But some of the experiences were things that happened in retirement. And so they were preparation for me. But you need to rebrand yourself from hero to zero in terms of identity. The guys who were showing Tom full respect, they all stopped. You know, this guy, we don't need to, we are not getting anything from him, so why do we want to do that anymore? To learn to be on your own. Just learn to be who you are and nothing more than that. And it will help you. First, psychological. That's important. If you are not able to overcome that, everything else will fall through. Then relationship with friends. Your friends who are truly friends. Treasure them. The people who pretended to be friends, they will fall away before you know it. Don't worry about them. You just have to go out there and develop new friends. Interestingly, I've been looking around for my primary school classmates. I don't know where they are. I know one, and unfortunately, I cannot trace to see if I can trace others. So relationships are very important, family, friends, etc. But accept the change. It is reality. Even if you did very well saving and investing, at that point, there's really no big deal trying to save all the world anymore. There are things you have to spend on. Don't cringe on yourself and suffer unnecessarily. There are things you need to spend on to make sure that you live a reasonable life. Don't spend all your money, but get to the point where, hey, if I have to buy a shoe, go ahead and buy it. Don't wear a shoe which is worn all to the sole and your feet is touching the ground. There's no point to do that. Okay? So you need to accept the reality. Again, it's a psychological mindset. You need to plan and understand that this is why I failed. This is why I invested. To take care of myself and my family. But then again, I think very importantly, one thing that gives satisfaction is helping others who are less privileged. You have no idea how much joy it gives you to be able to help somebody who is in need. The pastor asks a lot of questions. This guy is probably conning me. Sometimes I don't do that. I said, well, that's his problem. If he thinks he's conning me, that's his problem. So it's important. Manage the situation doing the best you can. What you can't, leave it to God. That's why you need to start with God. Then when it gets to a point you can't, you know, hey, I did the best. I'll leave it at your feet. Please manage it for me. And very importantly, limit comparison with others. Unless it is to learn a lesson from them. Don't compare yourself and blame yourself for not having done this or not being able to do that. So what? You have life today. It's such a valuable thing to have. If you have health on top of that, you are blessed more than most people. If you can get food to eat and you have a roof over your head, what else do you need? You know, over the last 2 weeks, I've been living alone. And I keep asking myself, really, what do you need all the space for? To sleep? Actually, I ask myself, what part of the bed do I sleep on? It's some small corner. So I've done paper and everything on everything, the rest of the bed, and they don't bother me one bit. I don't need that space. I wake up and I rush down, I go to the kitchen, get food, eat. The hall, I think I've used less than 1/3 of the hall on my own. So I ask myself, what's the point? It's all struggling for nothing. As Solomon said, vanity of vanity, all is vanity. And it's very important. Let me do quickly, go through how many minutes do I have? Okay, let me quickly go through this. So I said that we need to be balanced in all the spheres. The professional career, don't throw it out. There are things you can still do in retirement. I tell people I retired 2 years ago. They keep telling me, last year we organized a program for our retirees. And I was telling the chief director, I don't see my name on it. He said, who tells you you're on retirement? And they keep telling me you're not going on retirement yet. I keep saying, prepare yourself, be the best in your field. Be the best in your field. People always want you there. There were people who were my colleagues, they were waiting for the day their retirement will come. And then they will say, good luck. Some wanted to stay. Nobody told them anything. They kept tossing them back and forth and they went. So even while you're working, don't look at others and mess around. Be the best in your field. And don't flaunt it around. Just keep doing your work. That's it. You think people don't take notice, but they do. And then physiological, that's health. Generally, mental, physical. Again, it's important to start early. Don't wait till retirement. There are things Adventists teach. We have the celebrations. If we only stick to it, you'll be surprised at how much health and longevity it will give you. let me not talk about the social. I think I've dwelt on that quite a bit. Who are going to be your companions in retirement? Remember, whether you like it or not, even if you are married, one of you is going to precede the other. Generally, the children will be gone. So what arrangements do you have to leave? It is very important. At a point in time, maybe you will need care. Who will take care of you? Start thinking about it. But then we are in a generation called the sandwich generation. What is the sandwich generation? The generation who will have to take care of our parents. Unfortunately, our children are not on their feet properly, so we have to take care of them as well. That's the sandwich generation, so we are caught in the middle. So you might be providing care to your parents. Your children, they are grown, but they are not solidly on the ground. So you have to take care of them as well. You start thinking about that. Somebody has suggested, ensure that you have 10 times your final salary in savings account. I'm not going there. Good health and sufficient health care are the two most important factors for a sustainable life in retirement. I won't comment in there on that. And lifestyle is critical to that. Lifestyle. It affects every aspect of us, from the mind to the internal organs to the physical body that we have, which we see. Nutrition is key. Dr. Mark Heyman has this to say. We now know that food is medicine, perhaps the most powerful drug on the planet, with the power to cause or cure disease. So watch what you eat. Don't eat what everybody eats. Find out what's good for you. And I think as Adventists, we more than know. As much as possible, plan that. Drink plenty of water. Avoid the greases, the oils, and the meats, and so on, as well as salts and sugars, etc. Then again, exercise. Exercise, exercise, exercise. The older you grow, it becomes critical. If you don't exercise, we are told you lose as much as 12% of bone density. It's one of the big challenges for older people. Fall down and break their hip. The more dense the bone is, the better. So exercise, don't wait for anybody. If all you can do is walk around the house as many times as possible. Exercise, you can't emphasize enough. Obesity, run away from it. I think we are much better now. In the past, particularly for our ladies, when they get obese, that's when we think they look nice. It isn't the in thing. Shy away from it. You're only buying yourself disease. Okay? Then sleep. Some of us are very guilty of this. You never sleep enough. If you don't sleep enough, it will bring disease. I think we all need to take care of our bodies, which are the temple of the living God. Celebrations, I'm not going to go through it because I think we all are very much aware of it. Save to emphasize, exercise, exercise again. Our world has become very sedentary. A professor of anatomy recently said the new smoking is sitting down. I hope you heard that. The new smoking is sitting down. Sedentary environment. Go to work, you are sitting, you come home, couch potato, you just have your TV screen and you are flipping channels and gulping down whatever. You're only buying disease. Exercise, critical. But I emphasize, for those of us who have not been exercising, see your doctor at least. Don't go and give yourself a heart attack. And then social interaction, let me quickly emphasize that. Don't limit yourself too much. Even with your professional job. Don't focus too much. You specialize too much. All it takes is one change. You are in trouble. A few years ago, there were lots of tradesmen who were real specialists in their field. Automation, mechanization came. were thrown out of their jobs. If they are not ready to become machine men, yes, they were out of a job. So it's important that we diversify, learn as many things as possible. If one goes down, yes, there's something else you can do, particularly in retirement. What you didn't know how to do, start learning it. Even if you didn't start early, as soon as you start retirement, think of what you can do. Maybe start learning a language. Maybe start learning how to type. Maybe start learning how to play a musical instrument. Or something else. That will keep you going. Again, it keeps the mind going. Now they are what they call mental exercises. They are just games. But as you play, it keeps the mind active. You're just like the body. If you don't exercise the mind, it gradually loses its ability to do things. I think I've talked about the relationship of spouses, children, extended family, friends, etc. And the only thing I want to add is that apart from being happy about it, it provides, we are told, one of the studies that it provides that having social interaction, maybe you're going to the movies with people you don't know, just because you have social interaction, is almost as good as having exercise. So if you exercise and you do that as well, you have a double dose of health. So interact with people, go out, don't stay at home. Interact with people. It will take your stress away. And I like the title of this. Socially, sharing helps multiply the joys and divide the sorrows. You stay in your home, you're having problems, you keep thinking and thinking and thinking. You would kill yourself. Go out there, share your problems. Let them laugh about you, laugh at you. Somebody might just offer you the solution. So socially, let's do that. This is very important. Watch out for living arrangements. I said, as you grow, you get to a point somebody will need to take care of you. Who is going to do that? Note, there is a lot of elder abuse. People who come in to take care of elders steal their money, steal their valuables, sometimes even hits them. Let me show you a couple of examples. Sometimes, actually, worse still, children or other family members even abandon elderly people because when they were doing well, they couldn't care about anybody else. So they said, well, it suits him. Let him stay in his corner. Be open so that you can have people interact with you. But then abuse is there. Caregiver abuse. This is an example. Somebody was being paid to provide care for an elderly person, was stealing from her. The children put in CCTV and found out, and she was jailed for it. Here again, you see the caregiver hitting the elderly person she's supposed to be caring for. Here again, keep in touch. Volunteer in your community for even no pay. How can you do that if your income is not enough to start with? So that's why you've got to plan across all the range of things. Join a book club, start reading, do any of the things that will keep you interfaced with others. If that fails, fortunately for us, there's a lot you can do online now. It might be a new thing for you to learn, but it will keep you in touch. Phone calls, start writing letters. It's annoying, but write it. Emails, if you're not used to emails, get your children or somebody to set up for you and start doing emails. Get on the social media networks. It will at least be a second best option to getting socially interfaced with others. If we can do some of these things, it will not grant us eternal life on this earth, but it will prolong our lives. It will ensure that we have a reasonably healthy life and also ensure that we enjoy what we have of retirement as long as we have it. And in the end, if God has the foundation, we can be assured of eternal life beyond. So remember, start planning and early. If you have not done so already, start now and in a balanced and disciplined way. Thank you.
Very much, Elder. It's been wonderful. I mean, I've enjoyed the presentations of our presenters, both presenters, very much. So at this time, we'll open the floor for any questions that you have, whether it's Mr. Matekoli's presentation or the IE's presentations. For those of you online, please raise your hand. I'll see it and then I'll call you. For those of us here in the auditorium, if you raise your hand, I'll see that one also. So, any questions so far? Anybody with a question? Yes, Kwesi. If you can move a little bit forward so that we can see you. Yeah, we want to see you. Okay, so you can just stand there. They will zoom in on you.
So I think mine is more of a contribution than a question. I think it's an interesting discussion. And I want to contribute in terms of investments. And so if you look at the discussion that we've had, it mirrors a presentation that I made earlier. I'll just quickly highlight some of the things that I mentioned. That in our lifespan, we go through 3 stages. The first one is the education phase, which takes us from like 0 years to 24. The second stage is the accumulation stage, where we start working. So like from 24 years to 60 years. And then the third and final stage is the retirement stage, which is 60 to however long that you're given. The first phase usually is for us to learn how to do things and grow a career and do all the things that we need to do. But it's the second stage, which is the accumulation stage, that a lot of the activities that we do happen. And I think that if I look at those of us here, almost all of us probably are at the accumulation stage. And so that is the time when we need to be shoring up things for the future use. And so it's a very critical age for us. Now, for all of us, we need to be mindful of which end of the accumulation stage we are. I recall that when I did this presentation, I had quite a number of years to retirement. Today, when the discussion started, I started calculating and I realized that amount of time has reduced drastically. So you need to look at that and then see which part of the accumulation stage you are in. But specifically, I want us to know that it is possible for us to make the right investments here and now to be able to meet the kind of expenditures that we need to make when we come on retirement. The thing that we've mentioned is this. At retirement, your income is going to reduce, your expenses are going to go up. And so it is a very important decision to start making preparations towards it. The other thing that I would also want to say is that as human beings, we run the risk of either dying too quickly or living too long relative to our income. So you can die today. For those of us who have children, you would have put your children in harm's way if the right investments have not been made for them. On the other hand, you can also live very long and outlive whatever incomes that you have. So we call that longevity risk. You live more than you probably have accumulated incomes for. Fortunately, there are solutions for all of them. So as the insurance people will tell us, you can take a life insurance cover. Should I die now, there will be some money to take care of my family, or there will be some money, a lump sum or whatever, to be paid to my family when I die. At the same time, you can start making some investments towards the future. As I sat there, I was doing some calculations, and we can all do it. We can all do it. Take a piece of Excel or open your Excel application, put in a formula, and work with some numbers. For instance, if you go to Excel and you type equals to FV, FV means future value. You can start calculating, for instance, what your future value could be if I was making 100,000 CDs today. So I'll use an example. Let me just share that with you. I was looking at putting 100 CDs every month down for the next 20 years and investing that at about 1% a month. In 20 years, you can easily make about 100,000 CDs for your retirement. So that is a sample calculation. Yours could be more. You could say, okay, I'm able to make some investments of maybe 1,000 CDs a month or whatever towards my retirement, you can easily calculate how that will be. I think the first speaker mentioned something to the effect that you can see professionals who can help you to plan those things. It's very important that we do. But before you even go to them, you can look at your situation now and say, if I'm able to put 100 CDs away, or if I have 100,000, and I want to put that away as investment into the future, I can calculate how much that is and make the right investment. Let me emphasize that. Having been in the investment industry for a while, let me sound this caution too. Please do not make investments with your life savings out of greed. If you do, you might lose it. So look for investments which are reasonable. I personally do not fancy investments that will give you more than 2% a month. And so if you have a lump sum and you say, I want to invest for my future, and you have like 100,000, you can say the FV of that 100,000 in the future will be about 900,000 in 20 years. So I put in an investment that returns about 1% a month. You're safe. You can go to bed and wait for that to mature. So the presentations have been made to us. It is time for us to take real actions. We've been told the things that can happen and so on and so forth. But we need to take the real actions. And for all of us, we need to sit down and calculate. How much can I put down? How much do I have now that I can say, okay, I'm earmarking this investment for my retirement. Nothing else is going to touch it. And then you put that money away. So that's something I wanted to add to the discussion. But the time to start acting is here and now.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Matekole, I'm sure you can see you are still online. A few questions that have come up. There's a question in the chat. It says, do we have personnel who can help us curate a retirement plan based on one's earnings structure? So are there people that I can go and tell them, this is how much I'm earning, and therefore, can I get somebody to help me with that? The other questions, maybe let me ask a few and then you can answer them. Retirement is a long-term thing. I mean, some have 10, 15, 20 years. If we are putting our monies with a third private trustee, how sure are we that in 20 years, 15 years, when I'm going to retire, these guys are going to be there to pay me the money that I'm looking at getting? The other question is that if you can just break it down, for those who are in the informal sector, how can they practically invest or sign up on a retirement plan? How can they practically invest or sign up in a retirement plan? So those are the three questions for now. And then maybe if you take them, and then we take other questions as they come up. Mr. Masekoli.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll take the first one. Yes, there are people that can help you make such decisions. So that's why I stated in my earlier submission that you should always seek professional advice. There are quite a number of fund management companies, quite a number of corporate trustees that you can consult, and you'd always get an expert in these places to assist you. So they'll help you with a plan. This is how much I have, or this is how much I want to be worth or earn by the time I'm this age. How do I go about it? How much do I need to be putting away? Where do I need to be putting it? So yes, there are so many places that you could invest. You could seek that professional advice from. The second one was on the security of funds. That was the summary of the question that I put down. So it's more of asking, saying the investment pensions is long term. So how are you going to? I got it, but it was more around the security of the funds. Okay, so pensions, the pension space in Ghana is heavily regulated by the regulator, which is the NPRA. Okay, and backed by government as well. So contributions that are made to the pension, the trustee, the corporate trustee, which is us, we are to follow certain guidelines. So first of all, contributions are not handled by the trustee. We have a custodian bank that has also been accredited by the NPRA to hold all the funds, all the contributions that come in. And then we have fund managers that have been brought in to also decide or to make decisions, the investment decisions for the scheme. Okay, and then we are there to connect that whole circle to make sure that everything is functioning okay. So the funds are not sitting somewhere. No, the funds are sitting in investment vehicles that have been set up by the NPRA or by the NPRA guidelines. So the NPRA says that the regulator, that's the NPRA, has given strict guidelines on where pension funds are supposed to be invested and the percentages that are supposed to be invested there. So you can't just put monies anywhere that you want. No, it has to be per the guidelines, and the regulator is very, very strict on these guidelines. So every quarter, when you file your report, they check to make sure that you are in compliance. So that being said, the funds are not sitting with the trustee. So touch wood, if the trustee is to go bust or the trustee is to go out of business in the next 5-10 years or whatever, those funds are safe because they have been put in investment vehicles. They are not being handled by the trustee. I hope I've answered that question. And I think the third one was on the informal sector.
That one. Just a follow-up on that one. So if the
Okay.
trustees are collapse or they are not in existence anymore, where do I go to get my funds? Who should I go to? The pensions authority, or what is the procedure? What are the channels?
So as I said, the regulator oversees everything pensions in the country. So in the event that a trustee goes bust, the regulator is there to step in. So whatever information you require, whatever assistance you require, the regulator will give you. So that's why they are very strict on reporting. So you are reporting to tell the regulator where, what funds are, how much are in whichever place or whichever investment vehicle that you put those funds in, how much are there, what percentage is sitting there, when is the maturity. All that information is made available to the regulator. The regulator has all this information, so it's not kept by the trustee alone. The regulator has this information. So in the event that a trustee is to go bust, regulator can easily step in and manage these funds. So your funds are secure. Your funds are secure in the pension space.
Okay, thank you. And the third one is, so those in the informal sector, if you can walk us through the steps that they can take to be able to sign up for the pension program.
Okay, so those in the informal sector will majorly fall under the tier 3 voluntary pension contribution because they are not contributing to tier 1 and tier 2. That's for the first and second tiers. They are not contributing. So they are on the voluntary. So they can decide to get on the voluntary contribution scheme. Sign up. So it can be via a personal pension or a group personal pension plan. So, for instance, I'm a trader. I have a small shop. Okay, I'm a trader. I have a small shop. Okay, I sign up. I decide that.
Please go ahead.
Okay, good. I decided I want to take a pension cover for my maybe 3 or 4 staff, including myself. So I will sign up to a group personal pension, which is voluntary, but I would make sure that I am being deliberate and consistent with the contributions. Okay, so any corporate trustee, you can sign up on a personal pension for yourself or for your few employees that you have in your small informal setup that you're doing, or just for yourself.
Okay, thank you very much. So they just need to walk in or sign up for themselves. Just walk into a trustee or just sign up online or something like that.
Exactly.
All right.
So you can use our mobile app to sign up. You can walk into any of our offices to sign up to a personal pension as an informal pension.
Okay, so there are 2 hands. Kweku's hand is online, and then Joseph's hand is up here in the auditorium. So let's take Kweku first, and then Joseph will come to you. Yes, Kweku.
Yeah.
Please go ahead. You'll have to unmute yourself. You're muted.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good, great. Yes, so I have two quick questions. The first one, I just wanted to know, where do you draw the line between having to invest and then to save for pension? Because in like Kwesi would say, in this accumulation stage, you are saving money or you are investing into systems like setting up a school, setting up a business, which is also going to generate some income or some savings. Where do you classify? How do you combine having to plan or invest for retirement and having to invest to be able to be sustainable? That's where that's my first question. And the second question.
What are the benefits of doing your own private pension schemes versus doing a formal one?
Yes. Yes. Basically, how if you need to invest in something that you are hoping to get reward during your pension, and then having to go through the formal pension system, how do you blend that? And then also, I want to ask, there are some things that you need to kind of do now, like, for example, taking a family vacation and all of that. At a certain age, when you're on retirement, you might not be able to be that adventurous. Is it still advisable to save money to do that now?
Okay. Thank you, Keke. I'm smiling because your second question. So it's actually one of the things a lot of people look forward to in retirement, to be able to travel, to be able to take vacations that they were unable to whilst they were young. But how do we find a balance? Is it advisable to put off family vacations now till you go into retirement? It's a very thin line, and I say this because you see the time with the family too is very important. So let's not let's not put that on the back burner for so much. Do you understand? But we should try and find a balance. Much as I would want to, be able to go on vacations with my family, I would also want to be able to take my vacations when I go on retirement, because by that time, my children would also have their families that they will be spending that quality time with. But I shouldn't also miss out on that time with them. So I need to find a balance. So if I can afford to do, maybe in my lifetime, I can afford to do maybe 5 family vacations, we can reduce it to 2. And the vacations don't always necessarily have to be out of the country. Ghana is very big. There's a lot to actually see and do in this country. So there are other parts of the country that you could take these trips to, and it will be less expensive than it would be if I'm to, fly the entire family out to the States or maybe to Dubai or wherever out of the country. It will cost a lot less, and I will still have that quality family time. So as much as we want to, we would just have to try and look for alternatives, one, and also try and find a balance. Okay. With your first question, how do you draw the line with investments and setting up, should I say, schemes that will generate income for you when you retire? It all depends on your disposable income. Okay. You can run it concurrently. Sorry. You can decide to put money away in investment vehicles, maybe stocks, or maybe, as I said, personal pensions or corporate bonds. You can decide to do that. Mutual funds, you can decide to do that. And then you can also decide to invest in infrastructure. You can decide to put up property for rent, or maybe get into the commercial vehicle business or whatever it is. But you can do it side by side. But what you should not do, okay, would be to postpone the second part to your latter years. So I'll give you an example. Some people decide to use their pension funds when they go on retirement to set up, to set up apartments to rent. Okay. Okay, now that's a big problem, or that's a big no, because over what period of time are you even going to recoup that? You understand? It's different if you were doing it much earlier, maybe in your 30s or in your 40s. You're able to put up a few apartments so that you will, live off the rent income in your retirement. That's entirely fine, because you were paying for it or putting it up whilst you were in active service, receiving income on a monthly and maybe other allowances and whatnot. But now you are going to retirement. You've been paid, let's just say for the sake of argument, you've received maybe 300,000 as your retirement fund, and you're going to use 250 just for the sake of argument to put up an apartment, to rent. One, how much are you going to be charging for the rent? How long are you even going to be? How long is it going to take you to even break even? It might take you more than 10 years, because you might not even be getting that much back in terms of rent, but you've put in 250,000. That 250,000 could have, sustained you for several years in your retirement. But if you decide to invest in a capital intensive venture closer to your retirement, that becomes a problem. So yes, you can do both side by side, the investment and then as in money, cash investments, and then investing in equity, real estate, or whatnot to generate funds for you. But you should try and do the second part in your more active years, and not use your retirement funds to do that. I hope I've answered you.
Yes. Thank you very much. That answers my question. But Elder, sorry, before we go on, there's one more question from my house. So I don't know if I'm permitted to go ahead and ask that question first before Joseph comes in. Yes. Okay. So please hold on. Yes. Thank you very much. I'm trying to maybe our question. Sorry, before we go on, there's one more question from my house. So I don't know if I'm permitted to go ahead and ask that question first before Joseph comes in.
This is a issue. Can you hear us? Can you still hear us? Okay, we can come back to your house for your question. Let's take Joseph's own now, and then we'll come back to you.
Hello? Yes, we're ready. So
you're ready? Okay, let's take you then.
Yes, man, patron two to me, yes.
Well, invest in infancy, what we parent, why invest in what mahu? Ama infancy, what ma no more, one good education, I be I feel na infancy wants waba brewa, and now what do say dear? A water or no more so should be. Nasa one more say beer, ye jumenti intimate, and I say, kofa. Obi so mramehwe na mbia ono so ba no mo treat wa eno no betimi aka se enye hwe na bia wa anye bibi wa mfa won sese wa kire yi enti na saa de na abeto ana se san ena wo se mo ka kire mo ma ana ye ka kire ye mma ansa na won ahu se won so de wa ho odi nyina ene yes adwuma no e de hwe no ma we do stage a we dru no me pesa mo de nkwara no ebem na won mo hunu sania on responsibilities etie.
I get the question. The investment in the children is also an investment, right? Yeah. I mean, all the pay for the children is also an investment. It's part of your investment plan. I don't know whether you and Mr. Particular, maybe you can both comment on this. You want to comment? Mr. Particular, we can also take your views that investing in your children is also a retirement plan. Yes, Elder.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting one. And I think I made reference to it. That unfortunately for us, the age due to health, the advancement in healthcare, our parents are going to live longer than in the past. So we'll have to be taking care of them for some time. At the same time, given the economy in which we live, our children will need some more time to truly stand on their feet. So it's a chicken and egg situation. You have invested in taking care of him or her, your child, and probably you are still investing in doing that. He probably is still in school, probably doing his master's or something, or if he has finished, he's just started working. He can barely even pay for his own rent, and you expect him to take care of you. If he is able to do that, what he may have to do is to stop work and come and sit at home to take care of you. So it's a very complex situation we find ourselves in. Of course, in more advanced countries, that's where you have the senior citizens home and so on. And it's not the best, but reality, we are moving towards that because children cannot be asked to stop working or stop going to school and come and just take care of parents. Unless there's some arrangement where among the siblings or family members, some arrangement can be done. But again, as you rightly said, there is abuse which takes place. So these are all parts of a complex mix, which even as we plan for retirement, we should be thinking about. It could happen to us. Can we ensure that we have, if it is possible, paid for some elderly care? That way we don't stress our children too much. You may have taken care of him, but he or she may not be in a position at all to support you when you need it. So for me personally, I keep saying that we are in an age where don't think of your child coming to take care of you. Prepare to take care of yourself in your retirement. If he or she is able to do that, that just supplements what you have. And I think that's the way we should look at it now. Chances are you also have to take care of your parents alongside. So just prepare for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Matekoli, do you have anything else to add?
No, Elder has taken it very well. Actually, that's quite close to what I was going to say.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So like Azuma Nelson, you should always take your own referee and your punch into the ring. Huh? So you should prepare for...
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, good. A comment on this one. Okay, so Kwesi will also have a comment on that one. And then Ken, you also have a comment on this. All right.
Okay, so my mother's question, my son, is that because you spend time to take care of your children, it's not just they being with you, but also taking care of you in terms of your financial needs. That's how I understood our mother's question to mean. That unyidu baby umame na papa no mahwewa. Esa also timinde sikan kakra na obenya no. Eko fie ekoboa umame no papa no. Me pese mehwe no ewo two fronts. First one, the Bible can say 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 8 now. Or can we be or say New International Version says, anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. So the Bible says that if you don't take care of your own relatives. And in this case, if your parents have really taken care of you and you don't take care of them, then you're worse than an infidel. You're worse than an unbeliever. That's what the Bible says. So as children, we have a certain responsibility towards our parents. Even as they had responsibilities in taking care of us, we also have a responsibility in taking care of them. In my earlier submission, I mentioned that there's an accumulation phase. Usually the accumulation phase is from like 22 years, 24 years going. If you're not lucky, that would also be the time in which your parents are going on retirement. So you have just started life. Your parents have just started retirement. And so you're caught up between taking care of your own self and taking care of your parents. And if my premise that not taking care of your parents makes you an infidel, then it means that it is part of your responsibility. So in the accumulation phase, it's really a time for you to do some careful planning and balance yourself. I think that was one of the expressions that Elder used a lot in his presentation. Find that balance. So saving up for your own self, taking care of your children, and then taking care of your parents. Those are three responsibilities that come in the accumulation phase that you need to find a balance for. How you do it, I think, will take some planning and some prayers. And so, to our mother's question specifically, yes, ma, I think say udru baby a se wa hwe o mani ye no manya du baby a e so mo so mutimi hwe e no eye o ma said ye Bible no kra aka say wa wan hwe wabusuafo no o chen obi a onye ogidifo ana ogidini. And so children have a responsibility towards their parents. Emom ebi ana akoye din because almost obi am start abrabo nche se betimi a ye momom ndre kakra no montintim. But for the children, it's a responsibility that we have towards our parents.
Great, thanks. So Ken, a quick one because we're running out of time now, and then Joseph's. We'll take Joseph's. Yours is a follow-up. Okay, then let's take Joseph's one. Then Ken, you have your comment.
So mine is a
You can
follow-up.
come forward a wee bit so that we can capture you on the screen.
So mine is a follow-up to an earlier question that the Enin asked about those in the informal sector. I would say that even those in the formal sector, for the basic pension contribution, had it not been that they were deducted compulsorily upfront, I'm sure a lot would not contribute. What are some of the practical steps that those in the informal sector can adopt? So, for example, Mr. Matikoli, since you are with Enterprise, do you have means that those in the informal sector can also have a structured way of having deductions from their account so that at the end of the month, something is deducted? Because if you ask them to voluntarily go to the bank or come to your end to make deductions and payments, it will be difficult for them to do that. So do we have avenues where we can have monthly deductions for those who are in the informal sector?
Yeah, Mr. Matikoli, we'll take your comment.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, yes, we do. In my earlier submission, I mentioned mobile money payment because I was trying to speak about making additional voluntary contributions. But yes, we do have direct debit deductions monthly or whichever frequency you want to set it up to be. So in your application process, when you are going through the onboarding process, you will select, for instance, in this case, you will select the direct debit. So it means the deduction will be coming from the bank at a specified date with specified interval. So it may be every month on the 23rd, I want X amount to move into my personal pensions. So it's done automatically. There's no human intervention. So every month, consistently, provided there's money in the account, it will be pushed, that amount will be pushed into your personal pension. So that's another way. Previously, we had an auto-deduct function on MTN mobile money, but that hasn't been working from that angle. It's more a service provider issue with MTN. But when that was working actively, you could actually set up an auto-deduct on your Momo as well. So besides the direct debit from the bank, you can also have the auto-deduct on your Momo that on this date of this month, this amount should always go into your personal pension. So yes, we have those alternatives available.
Great, thanks. And I believe that these pension discussions is not for only men, but men and women as well. All the discussions so far has been the men making the contribution. So I believe it's the men and women's affairs. Okay, Great. Ken, let's have your question.
Okay.
Yes, please come. Your question, comments. Yeah.
I'll shed light on. Okay. I want to comment on 2 areas. Eda talks so much about the social capital. I think when you talk about pension, the first mindset goes to the financial aspect, but much is more with the social capital than the financial. I could have all the good monies, all the beautiful houses, but I don't have a family, I don't have a relation to relate to. And my house, my cars are there. I think they are like the enzymes, the workforce for my resources. I need workforce to help me get a certain task done. And if you're able to manage that, the social capital aspect of our retirement very well, it will flow with our other thing that we are discussing. So earlier on, Joseph brought the topic. I gave him 4 areas. This is free old age, social capital, financial capital, and then onwards investment. That is after here. What next? And then, what happened to me if I die? Like after retirement, I die. What happened to me? Like as Christians, you're looking at heaven. So I think, and one of the things that we need to drive home is the empathy that we need to teach our children. Kwesi was saying, okay, our mom and dad has invested in us. Okay, there's a time they have to also plan for themselves. They can do all those things. If you're the younger generation, you don't have empathy. Because the last time I was thinking, one of our elder, very, very active and strong, but today he sits in a wheelchair. So if I don't have that empathy to push that, when he comes to church and he's there, I should help. And like, he should take care of himself. He can't do it. Just like a child who is 1 year or 0 years, he can't do nothing. He can't do, the activity is 0. So if the younger generation, you don't have empathy towards the old generation, it's going to be chaos. So managing old age got to do so much with the social capital. The way we talk to people, the way we manage people's failure and success and other things. Today you are up there, so you don't want to greet anybody. In the neighborhood, when you get older, you say, oh, my car has stuck. So, oh, Mrantie, they will look at you. When you are driving, you don't even greet us. Now your car has stuck. I should come and help you. They'll throw you off. Because in the area, I don't greet them. You roll your car up, you speed off, and you have a problem. You say, oh, young men, come and help me. Who are the young men who should come and help you? Nobody will mind you. That's the social capital. Just be nice. Oh, Charlie Namote say, oh, take this for, oh, bossy. One day, if there's something happening, maybe your house is burning. We are here. Some have facilities or properties in maybe outside Accra. They'll call, oh, sir, your house is in fire. The young men will rally people around, go and put the fire off. But our social capital is so poor that we think that everything is money. So we let down, and gone with the days, that aspect of our social life was very strong. Everybody's problem is everybody's issue. Now, because of change and other things, we are losing sight of those vital things that makes Ghana a society. I see elder, I see small Ken. This ABC you are doing is not good. Look sharp. I just prop myself. Now everybody leave everybody for his own. So when you get old, it's even worse. Just as I was saying, when there's no money, there's no power, nobody will mind you. So when you're losing control on power, money, and everything, what will help us is the social capital. The soft aspect of our social being courteous, nice, considerate, and supportive. That is where I pray that we gather here and people watching over the line, we teach our children that aspect of life, that we need to help, we need to be there. Be like the Jonathans for David. Without Jonathan, there'll be no David who will sit on the throne. So I plead with us, let us work hard and save money, but let's make sure consciously teach our children to think about other people. And one thing, let's train our children with other people's children. Sometimes our own children will not be that considerate as other people's children. So if I train my other siblings' children, one day if I'm old and my own children decide not to mind me, That's young boy that I helped him to finish university. So, oh, uncle, one of one career university, medical school, he helped me. They'll come and help me. Maybe my own children, because of their work, they can't come. Some are working maybe Talo at the field. How can they come and take care of me? But my own cousin or my own niece that I help them, they will come in and support me. And that is where we should teach our children to help train other people's children aside training our own children. And that is so critical. It's a community, something that I want to build. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our time is almost up. So we'll take the final question from Samuel. And then Joseph, we'll go to our facilitators to give us their final words and to wrap up as we are running. It's almost 6 o'clock now. So Sammy, we'll take your question.
Yeah.
After that, we'll take final words.
Yeah. As the other said in his presentation, okay, yes. Let me come close. Yes. As the other said in his presentation, they have to, I think they invested in what the money all went share. Government have to intervene and pay them 50,000 or so. Yeah. Okay. Now, we have been talking about investment, planning, and a whole lot. These are some of the things that sometimes discourage some of the youth. My brother Brakwame can testify. Sometimes you invest into something, and then at the end of the day, you realize all your money gone, just like that. So as our big men or our bigger heads are educating us more on investment and planning, I also plead with them to tell us or guide us where we should go to, things we should look out for before we join this investment and plan for this whole investment thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So maybe Elder and automatically. So as you respond to that, then maybe you have a question. Let's take yours and then you can add it to the person.
I think Brakus mentioned it that
Please come forward so that we can see.
I think Brakus mentioned it that if you are invested in with an investment entity and they promise you more than 2%, I mean it's a red flag, right? Yeah. So I mean you'd hear people personally fine, but I mean people. I don't know much about investing, but when I hear some of the rates, for me, like who is not in that field, I mean, I see that it's not. Good example would be men's gold. Okay, so I was watching one of the demonstrations against Namwan. They actually went to his house in Tosako. One woman was interviewed, and they said the husband is dead, and he got some money. I think 200,000 from the husband's savings and all. And she actually invested all of it with men's gold. The woman was wailing. She was devastated because she said she has 3 kids. She has to pay school fees. Her rent is due. And a whole lot of pressure. How could you invest all the money you get from your husband's husband's savings into such a scheme? I mean, some of these things you can only blame yourself. If they are promising you more than, I mean, and risks that are not feasible. And I was speaking to one man who told me he invested in real estate, landed properties, and he said it was a very good one. Okay, he told me the price at which he bought the land 15 years ago and how much someone is willing to pay for it now. And I could see it's a good venture to think about. I don't know how more about it. Is it good to invest in land and real estate? What are the other investment opportunities you can look at? Yes.
Thank you very much. So I'll come round to our facilitators, and then as you respond to the last 2 questions, then you can give us your final comments. We'll start with you, Elder, and then we'll go to systematically for the final words.
Thank you very much. I guess the program has been worthwhile, the sharing of ideas and so on. But let me be very specific about the last 2 or 3 interventions. There was a matter of investment and the possibility of losing your money. Let's understand that all investment is risk related. And remember, risk, the return you expect on your investment is related generally to the risk associated with it. If you want to be greedy, go for very high returns, for sure go for it. But remember the risk that comes along with it. Let me share a quick story. In the mining sector, there is a Prestia mine. At a point in time, the workers decided to take it over when the former owners decided to go. So the mine workers got together, went to a bank, I won't mention the name, and the bank were able to get a loan to acquire the mine. Unfortunately, they didn't manage things well, and the bank, the mine ran aground. I hear the bank manager, the bank chairman went to talk to the chairman of the mine. He simply responded, "You know how risky it was. That's why you give us those rigid terms. So if the risk has materialized, what's your problem?" So the more risk, the more return you think you are getting, remember, it implies possibilities of high risk. So I think Ransford said, don't be risky. Don't be greedy. Let me emphasize that. Don't be greedy in your investment. If you are greedy, somebody tells you, I'll give you 50%, 100% in a month, 2 months, I can assure you it's only going to take your money away. So remember that, be cautious in your investment, seek expert advice if you don't know. And I said, diversify, diversify, and diversify again. Bethel for us, we can be thankful to God. I think we have quite a number of experts in this field. And we have held programs in the past. Going forward, maybe we'll redo some of these to advise people what they can invest in and so on. If we are all better off, the better it will be for our church. Then quickly, a comment on the matter of investing in our children. I think like Lucy said, I think it was spot on, that the Bible requires us to take care of our family members. Beyond that, I think we are also to be each other's keepers. In our family setting, sometimes the children are better placed to take care of the older folks. Sometimes the older folks who are better placed to take care of the children. If we'll be honest to ourselves, we can operate within that framework, then it will take us very far. Indeed, that is what I want to say, that even as we plan, let's plan not just to take care of ourselves, but to be one another's keepers in the smaller family setting, the bigger extended family setting, but in the church as well. God will bless us for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elder. So, Mr. Matekoli, we'll come back to you for your final comments as we bring the curtains down on this.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elder. Elder has actually put it very spot on. Very spot on. To every investment who there's a certain level of risk, and obviously the higher the supposed returns, the higher the risk is. Okay, so we have to be very measured in our expectations. As I said earlier on, yes, let's not be over ambitious with our pursuit for returns, because that's how some of these troubles start happening. So I believe it was Kwesi who said he has a certain margin that he goes with. If the finance house is promising more than that, to him that's a red flag, and I go by that. You should have a certain expectation. If they are promising you a little or way too much, way more than that, then that should be a red flag. But if you decide to still go for it, then it means that you are willing to accept the risk. It could go your way or it could go the other way. But personally, as a rule of thumb, I would steer clear of certain returns, because obviously I know the risk that it entails. And then the gentleman that asked about real estate being a good investment, yes, it is, but just like everything else, it also has its risks, because you're having situations in this country where people are selling land to multiple people. You could pay for the same piece of land 3 times over. You could also get one, pay for it once, and that's it. All documentation goes through. You don't have a problem. So yes, there's also it's a good one, but there's also it also comes with its own risks. It also comes with its own risks. So whilst getting into it, we should be measured. All right. And I usually believe in community a lot. So in your community, for instance, in Bethel S.D.A, hearing Kwesi, hearing other people speak, I can see that you have quite a number of people with significant financial background in your own small community. Have conversations with them. Much as I said, yes, seek professional advice. Yes, they are also professionals because they are doing it professionally. So it also falls under the seeking professional advice. Have conversations with them. This is what I want to do, or where do you think I should do? Have these conversations with them because they are also professionals, but you also have the advantage of having them in-house. So it's very, very important. It's to your own advantage. So always have these conversations with them, and they'll help steer you in the right direction. So in closing, I'll just like to say retirement is a big deal. Whether we like it or not, it's going to come. Whether we are prepared or not, it's going to come. So I would rather be prepared than not be prepared when it gets here. So let's take tips that we've gotten from these sessions and other sessions on retirement planning and investments. Let's take them seriously. Let's try and live by them as much as possible, and let's prepare well for retirement. And I believe it was Kennedy that also said there's also the social aspect of the planning. Yes, we talk a lot about the financial aspect of it, but there's also the social aspect. What kind of support system will you have when you go into retirement? Who is around you? Do you have a life partner? Do you have children or grandchildren that will be around you? That support system. Am I active in my community? Am I active in my church? It's all part of the support system, because statistics tell you people age quicker when they are lonely. People age quicker when they are by themselves. They don't get involved in any activities. They don't get involved with other people. You age quicker. It's a natural order of things. So much as we are planning financially, we should also look at the social part of our preparedness or our operations towards retirement. So that would be it from my end. And it's been a pleasure being part of this session with you this afternoon. Thank you very much, Joe.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is ours. We are truly, truly grateful for the time that you spent with us. We spent almost like 3 hours already. We started around 3 and it's almost 6 o'clock. And so, Mr. Matekole, we want to thank you very, very much on behalf of the Adventist Men's Ministries. And we also want to thank you. We are here with you, but we also want to say a very big thank you too for the time. And for all of us who have joined, those of us here in the auditorium and those who have stayed online for this program, I believe that you have taken something from the discussion so far. And the catchword is not just to plan, but to take action. So all the things that we have said here, let us implement them and start doing something. Yesterday, Mr. Matekole said it's gone, but we can start today. Well, today has ended, so let's start tomorrow. And then let's start working on these, and I believe that it will be well with us. On behalf of the Adventist Men's Ministry, thank you all very much for participation. We also want to say that you can follow us on our social media handles, Facebook and YouTube, at Bethel S.D.A. Osu, at Bethel S.D.A. Osu, both on YouTube and Facebook, and stay alert for the next subsequent programs that will come from the Adventist Men's Ministries and the other departments. I want to thank you all very much for your participation. To end, who will pray for us as we round up? Kofi and I, if you are close by, if you can just come up and say a word of prayer for us as we round up our program. Thank you all very much for participating, and thank you very much for staying with us throughout the program. Prof.
Shall we pray? Our Father in heaven, we thank you so much. We are privileged to be taught, to listen, and to hear you speak through these professionals. That this day we have learned so much to have our lives improved and to think for tomorrow. We ask that the things we have heard today, may we implement them. Implementation is key. And therefore, the two resource persons mentioned that we take the decisions now. If you are taking them yesterday, the better for us. However, your spirit, so you will do that which is right in thy sight. Take us to our various homes, and may you continue to bless us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful week, and may the good Lord continue to bless us all. Amen. Thank you very much. Let's go. Thank you.